right. Should be.
Got it.
Should be going live there. Now you can share it to your Facebook. Facebook people, hi, it's me, Linda Marcus Smith. I'm doing 3 interviews today, and I'm getting close to the 1,000 benchmark goal of December 5th. But the main thing is that these interviews were created so that when you go out to go watch comedy, let's say you're not a comedian, you don't know who people are. You see people's faces on a poster and you go, let's just go to comedy. And then when you get there, maybe you don't like the person or you don't connect with them or their material. This is your chance to get to know what they're all about before you go spend your money. So you get a way of connecting with my guests and seeing if you want to support their comedy online or in person or both. And it's for you. So kick back and enjoy these interviews. Today, I'd like to read you the introduction I have for my today's guest number 2 of 3 guests. And her name on Instagram is Jane Joan Comedy. So it has that little @ Jane Joan Comedy, and she goes by Jane Joan. And this is the intro she sent me to say. She says, I was brainwashed to become a drug dealer and went into the family business. Born and raised above my family's pharmacy in the heart of Brooklyn. Married and divorced, a gambler, followed by a narcissist. After raising 3 children and realizing I hated my original profession, I finally decided to pursue my dreams and become a stand-up comedian. I have now performed at Gotham Comedy Club, Broadway Comedy Club, and St. Mark's Comedy Club. Ziggy, something about Ziggy appeared in, oh no, that's never mind. That's something else. I went into something else that was on the page. So I think you're going to be performing, Jane Joan. You're going to be performing at St. Mark's this week.
Not this week. No, I actually, I just have another show booked. I have a show December 15th, and that show is going to be at in Roselle, New Jersey, Mr. East, 525. Oh, yes, it is 2401 Northwood Avenue. And that is December 15th, and December 28th. I'm sorry, December 21st, I'll be at the Stress Factory. I'm making a guest appearance at the Stress Factory for Talent the Comedian, on his annual holiday show.
Fabulous. That's so great.
Things. Monday evening, I was at Gotham Comedy, so that was a great show, had a wonderful time, a lot of family and friends there. So it has been a wonderful, wonderful ride, roller coaster this is.
That's fabulous. After we get done, at the end, I'll have you mention those 2 dates of your upcoming appearance, or 3 dates of your upcoming appearances, and send them to me separately, and I'll add them to the top of this post on Facebook.
Great.
Okay, so now we're going to take off our jackets, and we're going to do a little road trip together, back in time, in a DeLorean. We're going to go back to the future of little Jane Joan, growing up in Brooklyn above a pharmacy. You were 5 years old, 6 years old. Paint us a picture of what you were like then at home, and then into school, grade school, high school, and after high school.
So my at 5 years old, I had already started school. So I was at St. Finbar's, a Catholic school in Brooklyn, and my dad would drive us to school every morning. And then when we would come home, and we at that time were taking a school bus, we would come home, we would immediately run into my dad's pharmacy and always looking to maybe get a piece of candy or an ice cream. And then it was upstairs, get changed, and then outside playing. And we would just come out and do kids stuff. It was basketball in the backyard, hide and seek around the corner. Our playground was around the block. You couldn't go in the street, but you could run around the block. And I grew up with a lot of friends that the drugstore congregated a lot of kids just hanging out. And now as I got older, that grew, and my friends were all right in front of my dad's pharmacy. We had the old-fashioned telephone booths in the pharmacy and a scale that gave you a fortune. You put a nickel in or a penny at that time, and you got a fortune. And it was a wonderful life growing up. I must say, I had my dad all day long. He worked, he was the pharmacist, he had the pharmacy, and he didn't go to work. He stayed home and worked. We said his commute was 17 steps up and 17 steps down.
Oh my goodness. I bet all the neighbors really relied on him.
They did. You would go to him before you went to the hospital. So the limb would be hanging and they would say, Al, do you think I need to go to the hospital? That you have a broken arm. I think you need a hospital. Or, sometimes it was just a butterfly stitch, if somebody got hurt. And he was first line. He was a first line pharmacist at that time.
And now, what part of Brooklyn was this?
In Gravesend. So Bay 40th and Cropsey, near Coney Island. Cropsey Pharmacy was the store. And we, like I said, my brothers and I had a wonderful, wonderful upbringing. But I was definitely brainwashed even from that age by my mom. You will be a pharmacist. You will be a pharmacist. Pharmacy is a good profession for a woman. And, the one thing I realize now is I never had the opportunity to say, what would I like to do? What would I want to do? It wasn't a thought back then. It was just what would be a good, it's get a job, get benefits, get a retirement, get a job, I would never dream of raising my children or encouraging my grandchildren to that.
Exactly.
There's so much more out there. And
so little bit about grade school, how you were in school at grade school and then high school level and in college and what you did getting married. Let's hear those blocks.
Okay, so I was a good student, but I really didn't like, I guess, the regiment of the Catholic school. So in 7th grade, I moved to the public school. And in the public school, it was such a different atmosphere, but I still strived. I still thrived in that environment. I was a good student. And I, at that age, I did not participate in plays. I did not ever participate. I was never first line for acting or anything like that at that point. Okay. More basketball. I played basketball in elementary school. Wow. And I was very good in math. I thought I would be a CPA or an architect. Those were maybe the things I had thought about. When I got to high school, I graduated a year early. My mom had said, why don't you go to summer school and take some classes? Most of my friends were a year older than me. So I took took summer school classes for 3 years and I graduated a year early. And in high school, I was a twirler, not a cheerleader, but a twirler. So that was, I was co-captain. So I was in the front of the line in my maroon Lafayette High School in Brooklyn. And so I was front of the line and my maroon and white outfit. And then it was to St. John's. I applied to one school. I got accepted to one school and I went to study pharmacy. And in pharmacy school, it was very hard. I found it extremely difficult, but I got through it. I became a pharmacist. And at that point, I still had my core friends, the friends that I grew up with. I still have them to this day. I still have that core group of friends. I think of David Letterman, and he still has that core group of friends that he had when he was young. And I still have those friends, though it has expanded now. And in college, I studied how they got 6 years of chemistry in 5 years. I don't know, but they did. I worked at Bellevue for a summer and saw things I never thought I would see. I was on the emergency room team, and overdoses, things like that. It was at the
Jeez.
beginning, and in the 80s, HIV, AIDS was happening, and we saw a lot of people dying because at that point they didn't know how to treat it. It was an amazing experience. It's, things you never forget when you're watching that, watching people struggle with things that at that time they could not help. So it was a sad time. And yet for me, it was a growth time because I was getting ready now to graduate and grow into an adult. Now it was the adulting had to start. And I became a pharmacist. I became a medical sales rep, farm rep, and still no interest in the arts of any kind. I worked in hospitals. I worked in nursing homes, a little bit of everything. And in 1985, I met my first husband, and we married in 1990, and he was the gambler. And so, I hate to say, I knew I was going into that marriage that it might not work, and it didn't. But then I met my second, a few years later after we were divorced, I met my second husband, and I thought he was, he was the one, and he thought he was the one also, and I say, I got divorced for religious reasons. He thought he was God, and I didn't.
This was the second husband that thought he was God.
He did.
Wow.
He did, still does. So he, but it's all a learning experience. But it was in that marriage, it was at that time, I started to think about what the things going on in our lives. And I said, we need to put this in the sitcom. Look at what's happening. We need to write this down. We need to take notes. And it was that point that I started thinking about comedy, but in creating a sitcom.
Wow. I
So
get it.
That was in the early 2000s. So at that time, I'm now married, raising my 3 children, and I now getting, at this point, 2010, we're getting divorced, and I'm on my own, raising my kids, and still thinking about a sitcom. Like that still is becoming that's prevalent in my mind. 2019, I meet a gentleman at a party, and he's talking about that he wants to take an improv class and a stand-up class. And that's where it clicked. It was that night that I came home and I started looking up stand-up classes and improv classes. I took a free class in each of those, and then said, okay, now how could I monetize this? Because now I'm not in my 20s. So this is not, this is not a game. It's not, I'm in my late 50s. So how can I monetize this? And you go back to the stand-up comedians that became sitcom stars: Ray Romano, Paul Reiser, George Lopez, Seinfeld, Roseanne Barr, that list goes on. Tim Allen. And so I said, okay, if I learn stand-up, that's a way I might be able to get my sitcom. And
Wow.
so I took a writing class and I took a stand-up class. And Jeff Lawrence, who runs Laughing Buddha, he said, get on stage whenever you can. And it was at that moment that I started doing open mics. So between 2019 and today, I have done probably close to 200 open mics. I was out there before COVID. I was out 4 or 5 nights a week. I'd be in 2 or 3 different clubs. I would be getting as much stage time as I could. And I took a few other writing classes. I took Rick Chrome's writing class over at the Comedy Cellar.
Fabulous.
Right. And I'm taking all of this in, bringing it in. Now, how do I monetize it? So at this point, I've gotten paid intermittently for my performances. My first paid gig was at Ben's Deli, Latkes and Laughs.
Alan Streisfeld.
Alan Streisfeld. Thank you, Alan. I won a comedy contest out in Long Island, Dan Romano's comedy contest.
You won it?
I won.
Wow.
So that put me in front of Alan. And so he called me up and said, would you like to do this? And I said, yes, I would. And that was my first. I've done a few private performances that were paid, and a few on Staten Island. So it's starting.
Great.
Now, through my brother, who's a pharmacist, I met my comedy bestie, which is Natasha Face, and we are working together to create something that we can present to the world, to just promote laughter and happiness and learning to do what you love and making money at it. Because ultimately, some people say, oh, I do this, it's not for the money. It's not. Well, you know what? I'm not doing this just for fun. I'm 61 years old, and not that I'm relying on it to pay for everything. But yes, I want to make money. I'm not going to, if you don't think you're going to make money, you're not going to make money. But if you put it in your mind that you're going to make money, you will.
That's right. You tell them.
But in the interim, while all that is going on, I also wrote a book.
Oh, well, let's hear about that.
So Mysteries of the Holy Rosary. I'm Catholic. And I wrote a book about the rosary, about how to pray the rosary for children. And this has been an amazing, like this is just one of the illustrations. And this was a call, when you're called to do something like this, the Blessed Mother, she called me and I answered. And so I've been promoting the book. My goal for the book right now is to sell 1 million copies and to promote a good message. I could have wrote a book about my narcissistic ex-husband. Instead, I wrote a book about God, and hoping that that's going to get me into heaven in the next life.
What's the name of the book again?
Mysteries of the Holy Rosary.
And it's so that Catholics are more aware, or anybody can be
Anybody could look at the book. It's a book about the life of Jesus and Mary. But Catholics pray the rosary, and the rosary is the life of Jesus and Mary. That's what it is. But this book does have all of the prayers in it. But the pictures go through when the angel comes to the Blessed Mother to ask her to be the mother of Jesus. And it goes through her life, his life, and then when he dies, his crucifixion, and then his ascension and her assumption. So it is mostly for Catholics, but anybody that Christians, I would say in general, would like the book. It's on Amazon.
It's very interesting. Like I've heard that people use rosary beads to pray.
Yes.
And does it cover the meaning and significance of that?
It teaches you how to pray. It's not a history of the rosary.
People need to know how to pray.
Yes. And that's what this is. So people have a rosary, but how do I pray the rosary? This teaches you how to pray the rosary. I really created it for children because I feel the youth, that's when you should learn it. When children receive communion is when they usually get their first rosary. But I've had many people, older people, that have told me they never learned how to pray the rosary. And this helped them.
That's fabulous. So please send me the link to that as well. So
I
that
will.
can be at the top of your post as well.
Thank you.
Yes. So you've been doing comedy since 2019. You won the Dan Romano out in Long Island comedy contest, got on Ben's Deli. You've been on many good stages, like top-notch stages, St. Mark's, Gotham. You mentioned a few others that escape my memory right now, but you're no slouch. You're out there really hitting it.
I am. That is, I had a conversation with somebody the other day, and he said, oh, everybody on this stage, like right now, my goal, I want to be on the Borgata stage.
Sure.
So he said, I'm looking at everybody here, they have 20 plus years in. I said, listen, I'm 61. I don't have 20 years. I didn't start when I was 18. I didn't start even when I was 30. I started at 58. So I have to get myself out there now. And I have to show people, number one, you could do clean comedy and be funny. You can do comedy about, you don't have to put people down. If you can make people laugh, you can work your comedy material any way you want. You don't have to be vulgar, and you don't have to have off all the time if you choose to do it. But I don't choose to have that kind of career.
Absolutely. Well, do you have hopes of getting on the Borgata stage?
I do. And that is, I'm taking the steps. I'm meeting the people that can help me get there.
Fabulous. You're really out there kicking it. So you've got a book and you have a writing partner or a business partner, and you're going to be coming up with projects together that'll
Yes.
be lucrative and advance your career.
Yes, that is. And I always have. So I think in like 22-minute segments, because that's how long a half an hour sitcom is. So I know I have to have 3 things going on and 22 minutes. And so a lot of things that go in my life, I almost look at them like they're going on a screen. Another thing I've been doing is I've been doing some extra work. I'm taking an acting class, and I did 2 episodes of Mrs. Maisel, and I did 2 episodes of And Just Like That. So I'm pushing myself to do things out of my comfort zone to put me in an environment where I want to be.
Yes, absolutely. You're such an encouragement. And so many people can really learn from what you're doing. You're actually doing it. You're not just, and you could probably, once you get through this, you could probably teach a course.
I would love to do that. And so one of the other things in my life is personal development. So I do some coaching also. And it's, we have these thoughts and we have these feelings, and we talk about meditating and looking at the end goal. But if you don't take those thoughts and feelings and take actions, you'll never get results. It's in the action portion of it is what gives you the results. So you must take calculated actions. You must think about them, and to bring you where you want to go. I feel like most of our lives, we lived moment to moment. You lived, something happened, you reacted, and what were you going to do next?
Most people are reactive and not proactive.
Exactly. So I don't live like that any longer. I live proactively. It's, it's almost like preventative care. You should take care of yourself so you don't get sick. And I take the action so that I get where I want to be.
I love that. You're such an encouragement.
Thank you.
Yes. So at some point, you probably will be coaching other young comedians or bringing new comics into the business or new entertainers. The world is wide open for you, regardless of starting later in life. You have so much ahead of you.
I don't know where it's going to lead me. So I'm taking the action right now to get on stage, to be paid to do what I love to do, to promote the book, and to then create the sitcom. And I also am working on a book for my comedy that includes my recipes.
Ooh,
So my next project is cooking while I'm driving.
no way.
So that's yes. So I have some of the recipes. So it's something I started and I put on a shelf, but I think it's time to take it down and start working on it. And
Is that where you put food in tin foil and you put it on the battery?
I want the hood of my car to be like the grill. And I'm not grilling hamburgers. I'm grilling steaks. We're not eating hamburger. We're eating steaks. So I almost want the front of my car to be so that I could be driving and, the kids are always, what are we eating? What are we eating? I don't want that. I don't want that. So, and it's all about how do you raise a family eating well and giving them nutritious meals without going crazy.
That's almost a sitcom.
Well, it is. There we go. It is.
I could see that being super interesting. A different meal every episode.
The kids are who's going to track? Who's going to gymnastics? I have dance. I have cheerleading. And how much time do you have to prepare that meal? So I knew if I was taking my kids to track, I didn't have as much time as if when they were going to gymnastics. So it's definitely that could all be all together. I see it.
I love that. I love that. I would also, if you have any video of you on stage doing your comedy, I'd love for you to send me a video clip so that I could post it, because sometimes club owners and agents and bookers will look at my video interviews. I'd love to see something of you. I believe in you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us again, now that we're near the end of this interview, tell us again where you're going to be performing and where to follow you so we can support you.
Okay, so you could follow me at Jane Joan Comedy on Instagram. And this Thursday, December 15th, I will be at Mr. East, which is at 2401 Northwood Avenue in Roselle, New Jersey. And on December 21st, I will be at the Stress Factory at Talent the Comedian's annual holiday ball. I'm doing a guest spot on his show. So that's what I have planned for December. My book, Mysteries of the Holy Rosary, is available on Amazon. And that's about it for now.
You're so fabulous. I have just enjoyed so much getting to talk to you. Type me those dates and places and addresses, etc., and a video link of you performing your comedy and all your upcoming performances. And also, anytime you want to come back on and promote something else you're going to be on, hit me up. I've offered it almost 1,000 times, and maybe only 5 people have come back on to plug things.
Well, I will be back. You don't have to worry about that, Linda. I take every advantage I can. So I appreciate that you want me back.
Also, women helping women.
Women helping women, without a doubt. I belong, so an organization on Staten Island is the World of Women. And I belong to that organization, and they actually gave me, it was through that organization that I did my first hosting, that I hosted one of their events. So they're very supportive of my comedy also.
Fabulous. Oh my gosh. Jane Joan, I am so tickled to have gotten to meet you. Thank you so much for this time. You guys, that's Jane Joan. And then on Instagram, it's Jane Joan Comedy. And I'm going to get all her information of upcoming performances, a video clip of her comedy, and so that you can help her career. So let's all do that. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Jane Joan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.